The chamber was massive, built from crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Representatives from 43 different species sat in their designated sections, each area modified to support their unique biology. Some breathed methane, others floated in zero-gravity fields, and a few existed as pure energy contained within special vessels. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the human section, which was laughably small compared to the grand seating areas of the older civilizations. She adjusted her translator earpiece and tried to look confident, even though she felt like a child at an adult's table. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called 3 hours ago. The Kreth swarm was winning. On the massive display screen that dominated the chamber's center, red markers showed the Kreth advance. They had already consumed 12 colony worlds. Millions were dead. The swarm moved like a plague across the star maps, and nothing seemed able to stop them. Commander Vaxil of the Droken Empire stood at the speaking platform. He was nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark blue scales with 4 arms that gestured dramatically as he spoke. His species had ruled a quarter of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They knew war. "Our defensive line at Talos System has fallen," Vaxil announced, his voice deep and resonant. "We lost 47 warships in 6 hours. The Kreth bioships can regenerate damage faster than we can inflict it. Their hive mind coordinates attacks with perfect precision." A murmur of concern rippled through the chamber. The Droken were considered the finest warriors in known space. If they were losing, what hope did anyone else have? A crystalline being named Kriya, representing the Vexari collective, spoke next. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "Our analysis suggests the Kreth will reach the inner colonies within 20 cycles. We must consider evacuation protocols." Evacuation? A luminous energy being flickered with angry red light. We're talking about abandoning billions of citizens. "Better alive and homeless than dead," another voice called out. The argument escalated. Species blamed each other. Old rivalries surfaced. Sarah watched the chaos and felt frustration building in her chest. Earth had only been part of this council for 15 cycles. They were the newest members, the least advanced, the ones everyone else looked down upon. But they had fought their own wars. Humanity knew something about desperate battles. Sarah stood up. Her section's indicator light flashed, requesting permission to speak. The council's AI noticed and announced, "The human delegation wishes to address the council." The chamber fell silent. Not the respectful silence given to powerful species, but the awkward quiet that came before someone said something embarrassing. "Ambassador Chen," Vaxil said, his tone patient but dismissive. "This is a military crisis. Perhaps human input would be better suited for agricultural trade discussions." A few delegates made sounds that might have been laughter. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "Earth has a battleship 3 light-years from the Talos system. The UESS Indomitable. We can have it there in 12 hours. It can help." Vaxil's face showed something between pity and amusement. "Ambassador, your species has been in space for barely 100 of your years. Your ships are functional, I'm sure, but this requires military-grade vessels. The Kreth are unlike anything you've encountered." "We've studied the tactical reports," Sarah insisted. "We have weapons that might be effective against bioships." A delegate from the Hive Consortium, a species that looked like a floating jellyfish, spoke up. "We mean no disrespect to humanity, but your technology is primitive by galactic standards. Your ships still use chemical propulsion in some systems. You haven't even mastered true energy weapons yet." "We've reviewed human military capability," another voice added. "Your largest warship is a converted colony vessel. It is bolted on armor plates and weapons from 6 different manufacturers. It's a patchwork design that violates every principle of proper engineering." Sarah felt her face flush. Everything they said was true. The Indomitable was ugly. It was crude. Earth had built it from whatever they could afford and adapt. They had joined the galactic community late, and they were decades behind everyone else in technology. But it could still fight. "Permission to deploy our ship to Talos System," Sarah requested formally. "We won't interfere with council strategy. We'll follow your orders, but let us help." Vaxil exchanged glances with other senior delegates. He sighed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Ambassador Chen, if we allow every species to send their pride into this battle, we'll have chaos. The Kreth will exploit our disorganization. I appreciate your species' enthusiasm, but war requires more than courage. It requires capability. The council moved on to other topics. Evacuation routes, supply lines, political concerns. Sarah sat down defeated. She opened her private comm channel and sent a message to Captain Marcus Webb of the Indomitable.
Council refused our offer to help.
Orders are to maintain current position and await instructions. The reply came back 3 minutes later. Understood. We'll comply with official orders. Webb out. But Sarah knew Marcus Webb. They had served together in Earth's Navy before the first contact with aliens. She knew what that carefully worded response really meant. The council session continued for 2 more hours. Plans were made, resources allocated, but Sarah could see the fear in their eyes regardless of what strange forms those eyes took. They were losing and they knew it. Finally, the session ended. Delegates filed out, returning to their ships or quarters. Sarah made her way to the observation deck, a section of the station with transparent walls that looked out into space. Kriya was already there, her crystalline body reflecting starlight in rainbow patterns. She turned as Sarah approached. "Your species is very brave," Kriya said. "But bravery without power is just tragedy waiting to happen." "Maybe," Sarah replied. "Or maybe everyone here has forgotten what it's like to fight when you have no choice. Earth knows desperation. We've nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. We know how to fight dirty, how to survive when we shouldn't. The Kreth have destroyed civilizations older and more powerful than humanity," Kriya said gently. "What makes you think you can make a difference?" Sarah stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Indomitable was waiting. A ugly, crude patchwork ship crewed by humans who refused to quit. "Because we don't know when to give up," Sarah said quietly. "The council thinks that's a weakness. Maybe they'll learn it's actually our strength." Far away near the Talus system, Captain Marcus Webb read his orders again. "Stay put, don't engage. Wait for council coordination." He looked at his command crew. They looked back at him, waiting. "Navigation," Webb said calmly. "Plot a course to Talus system. Best speed, sir," the navigator replied carefully. "That violates our orders." "I know." "Do it anyway." "Yes, sir." The Indomitable turned and began accelerating toward the battle. Behind them, they left safety and orders. Ahead lay a fight they would probably lose. But humanity had never been good at following sensible advice. Observer Station Sigma-7 floated at the edge of the Talus system, far enough from the fighting to be safe but close enough to monitor everything. Inside, military analysts from 20 different species watched their displays with growing horror. The Kreth were winning. Their bioships looked like massive insects crossed with deep-sea creatures, all chitin plates and thrashing limbs. They moved in perfect coordination, the hive mind directing them like fingers on a hand. Conventional weapons barely scratched them. Energy blasts would burn through armor, but the organic ships would just grow new tissue to replace what was lost. Commander Vaxel stood in the station's command center, his forearms crossed. His fleet had been cut to pieces, 30 ships lost in 2 days. The Kreth were pushing closer to the inner colonies with every hour. Kriya stood at her monitoring station, her crystalline form refracting the light from dozens of displays. She was recording everything as her species always did. The Vexari were historians and analysts, not warriors, but she had never seen a battle this one-sided before. "New contact," an operator announced suddenly. "Single ship, human designation. Entering the system at high velocity." Vaxel's head snapped up. What, are the humans insane? The display showed a single marker approaching the Talus system. "The UESS Indomitable." "Hail them," Vaxel ordered. "Tell them to turn back immediately. They'll be destroyed." The communications officer tried, waited, tried again. "They're responding, Commander." Captain Marcus Webb's face appeared on the main screen. He was human-typical. Brown skin, short dark hair starting to gray at the temples, eyes that looked tired but determined. He wore a simple military uniform with scorch marks on one shoulder. "Commander Vaxel," Webb said, his voice flat and professional. "U.S. Indomitable reporting. We're here to assist." "Captain Webb, you are in violation of Council protocols. You were ordered to maintain position and wait for strategic coordination." "I know, sir. But people are dying and we can help. So we're helping." Vaxil felt anger and frustration surge through him. These humans had been in space for barely a century, and they thought they could make demands?
"Captain, the Kreth will destroy your vessel in minutes."
"Your technology is not adequate for this engagement. Withdraw immediately." "Respectfully, Commander, no." The channel went silent. Webb wasn't arguing. He wasn't explaining. He had simply said no and waited. Vaxil realized he had no authority over the human ship. Earth wasn't part of the military command structure yet. Technically, Webb could do whatever he wanted. Political consequences aside, your death will be on your own head, Vaxil said coldly and closed the channel. Kriya focused her instruments on the approaching human ship. Now she could get detailed scans, and what she saw was bizarre. The Indomitable was ugly. There was no other word for it. Proper warships were sleek and elegant, their designs refined over thousands of years of development. The Indomitable looked like someone had taken a cargo hauler and welded weapons to every available surface. The hull was angular and crude, covered in mismatched armor plates that were clearly added later. Some sections showed different metals, different colors. The engines were a strange hybrid of plasma drives and something else, something that burned with chemical fire like ancient rockets. Weapons bristled from dozens of hardpoints, missile tubes, railguns, what looked like simple ballistic cannons, and several systems Kriya couldn't even identify. "It's hideous," one of the Luminos observers said, their energy form flickering with something like disgust. "Do humans have no concept of aesthetic design?" "They built it to kill things," Kriya said quietly. "Not to look pretty." The Indomitable was still accelerating. Kriya checked the numbers and felt shock ripple through her crystalline structure. That velocity? That's impossible. The gravitational forces would pulp any organic crew. Humans can withstand higher G-forces than most species, another analyst offered, but not that much. They must have internal dampening systems we don't know about. The Kreth had noticed the new arrival. A cluster of 47 bioships broke away from the main swarm and began moving to intercept. They moved with terrifying grace like sharks circling prey. Every observer in the station watched in silence. They all expected the same thing, a brief, violent death for the human ship. Perhaps it would destroy one or two Kreth vessels before being overwhelmed. That would be respectable for such a primitive craft. The Indomitable kept coming. "Human vessel is entering weapons range," an operator reported. "Kreth formation is spreading to surround them." Vaxil watched, his jaw tight. He felt a mix of anger at human stupidity and regret that he was about to witness their destruction. Humans were arrogant and crude, but they didn't deserve to die like this. "Kreth opening fire," the operator said. Bioplasma bolts lanced through space, brilliant green streams of organic acid that could melt through standard armor in seconds. The Kreth fired in coordinated volleys, dozens of ships targeting the single human vessel. The Indomitable twisted in space, its crude engines flaring. It shouldn't have been able to turn that fast, but it did, evading the first volley by mere meters. "Interesting," Kriya murmured. Then the Indomitable fired back. Every weapon on the ship seemed to fire simultaneously. Missiles erupted from launch tubes in clusters of 12. Railguns sent solid metal slugs accelerating at a significant fraction of light speed. The ballistic cannons fired what appeared to be simple metal rounds, but they moved with terrifying velocity. And there was something else, something that registered on sensors as nuclear detonations. "Are those fission warheads?" someone asked in shock. "Those are outlawed by the Weapons Convention of Cycle 4721. Humans never signed that convention," Kriya noted. They weren't part of the council yet. The first Kreth bioship exploded as 3 railgun rounds punched through its command center. The second took a direct hit from a nuclear missile and simply disintegrated in a flash of atomic fire. A third tried to regenerate damage from ballistic impacts, but couldn't keep up with the sheer number of rounds hitting it. The Indomitable charged straight into the Kreth formation. "Insane," Vaxil whispered. "They're insane." Proper space combat was conducted at range with careful positioning and energy management. Ships maneuvered cautiously, preserving shields and armor. Combat was a careful dance of thrust and counterthrust. The Indomitable fought like a brawler in a bar fight. It closed to point-blank range with the Kreth, so close that bioplasma fire scored its hull, melting armor plates, but at that distance every human weapon hit its target. The ship spun and rolled, firing in all directions. When Kreth vessels tried to flank it, the Indomitable simply reversed thrust and accelerated backward, guns still firing. "They're using their maneuvering thrusters as weapons," Kriya observed with something like awe. "The exhaust is incinerating Kreth that get too close." A Kreth bioship latched onto the Indomitable's hull, trying to breach it with cutting limbs. The human ship didn't try to shake it off. Instead, explosive bolts blew a section of damaged armor away from the ship, taking the Kreth with it. The Indomitable was shedding parts of itself to keep fighting. Missiles continued to pour from launch tubes. These weren't sophisticated guided weapons. They were simple, stupid rockets with nuclear warheads that exploded in clusters, overwhelming the Kreth's ability to regenerate faster than they were being destroyed. 17 Kreth vessels destroyed, an operator reported, their voice stunned. 21, 24. The Indomitable was winning. The human ship was covered in scorch marks and holes. Sections were venting atmosphere, but it kept fighting with savage intensity that seemed impossible for a machine. It felt personal, like the ship itself was angry. "Captain Webb is broadcasting on all frequencies," the communications officer said. Webb's voice came through, calm despite the chaos visible behind him on his bridge. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. Crew members worked frantically at their stations. Any Drokan ship still combat-capable. Now would be a good time to join in. "We're making them angry." Baxil stared at the display. His pride warred with his military training. Then he made his decision. All ships form up and engage the Kreth. Follow the human's lead. Kria's crystalline structure pulsed with light, her species equivalent of a smile. History was being made and she was watching it happen. The Indomitable's bridge was barely controlled chaos. Smoke filled the air from a damaged console in the corner. The artificial gravity had failed in sections 2 and 5, and the crew there was fighting while floating. Damage reports scrolled across every screen faster than anyone could read them. Captain Marcus Webb gripped his command chair and watched the tactical display. 31 Kreth bioships destroyed, 16 remaining in this group. But his ship was paying the price. "Hull breach on deck 7 through 9, Lieutenant Ramirez called out from her station. "Sealing now." "Port railgun array is offline," Weapons Officer Chen reported. No relation to the ambassador, but he fought with the same stubborn determination. "Switching to starboard guns and missiles." "We've got company," the sensor officer announced. "Drokan ships are moving to engage. Looks like 12 vessels." Webb allowed himself a thin smile. The Drokan had decided to fight after all. Good. Commander Vaxil's ship, the War Pride, was a proper military vessel. Sleek, powerful, with energy shields that could absorb tremendous punishment. It moved into position alongside the battered human ship with textbook precision. "Captain Webb," Vaxil's voice came through the comm. "We will target the Kreth vessels to your port side. Suggest you focus starboard." "Understood, Commander." "Welcome to the party." The Drokan ships opened fire with their plasma cannons, beams of superheated matter that could cut through most armor. They moved in formation, supporting each other with overlapping fields of fire. It was beautiful to watch, like a deadly dance. The Kreth, caught between the crude human aggression and the refined Drokan tactics, began to falter. The hive mind controlling them was having trouble adapting to two completely different combat styles at once. "Target the big one," Webb ordered, pointing at the largest Kreth vessel in the formation. It was twice the size of the others, probably coordinating the local swarm. "All missiles, full salvo." "Sir, that will empty our magazine," Chen warned. "Then we better make it count." 24 nuclear missiles launched simultaneously, their chemical rockets burning bright against the darkness of space. The Kreth tried to intercept them with bioplasma fire, destroying 7. But 17 missiles got through and detonated in a cascading series of atomic explosions. The large Kreth vessel came apart, its organic structure unable to regenerate from that much damage at once. The remaining Kreth ships shuddered, their coordination disrupted. The hive mind was scrambling to compensate for the loss of a node. "Press the attack," Vaxil ordered his fleet. "Don't let them regroup." The Drokan ships surged forward, energy weapons cutting through confused Kreth vessels. The Indomitable, its missile tubes empty, switched to its ballistic cannons, simple metal slugs fired at incredible velocities. They were crude weapons by galactic standards, but they worked. The last Kreth vessel in the immediate area tried to flee. The Indomitable accelerated after it, engines burning at maximum. Webb knew he was pushing the ship beyond safe limits, but safe had never been the mission. "Ramming speed," he said quietly. "Sir?" Ramirez looked at him in shock. "You heard me." The Indomitable closed the distance. The Kreth bioship tried to turn and fight, but the human vessel was moving too fast. They collided at high velocity, the reinforced prow of the Indomitable smashing through the Kreth's armored carapace. The impact threw everyone on the bridge forward, Webb felt his ribs crack even through the safety harness. Alarms screamed. Half the displays went dark, but the Kreth ship was dead. Torn in half by the collision. Damage report, Webb gasped, pain shooting through his chest. Forward sections are gone, Ramirez reported, her voice shaky. Decks 1 through 3 are open to space. We've lost 2 railgun arrays, the main sensor cluster, and all our missiles. Hull integrity is at 40%. What can still fight?
Starboard railguns, 3 ballistic cannon turrets, and our point defense lasers. Then we can still fight. On Observer Station Sigma-7, every analyst watched in stunned silence.
Kria's crystalline form pulsed with rapid light patterns, her species' version of excitement and disbelief. The human ship just rammed a Kreth vessel, someone said unnecessarily. Everyone had seen it. Impossible, a Luminos observer stated. The collision should have destroyed both ships. The Indomitable was built with a reinforced prow, Kria noted, reviewing the data. They designed it to survive impacts. They planned for this. Vaxil appeared on the station's main screen, his scaled face showing a mix of respect and confusion. Observer Station, be advised that the immediate Kreth threat has been neutralized. Human vessel Indomitable is heavily damaged but still combat capable. Casualties unknown. Kreth main fleet is responding, an operator announced, voice tight with fear. We're detecting massive movement. They're converging on your position. Count is 214 bioships. The command center fell silent. 214 Kreth vessels. The entire swarm was coming. All ships retreat, Vaxil ordered immediately. Fall back to defensive position Delta 7. We cannot fight those numbers. The Drokin ships began turning, preparing to jump to faster than light speed. But the Indomitable didn't move. Captain Webb, Vaxil called. Retreat order includes your vessel. You cannot fight that fleet alone. Webb's image appeared on screen. His uniform was torn and blood ran from a cut on his forehead. Behind him, the bridge was a disaster, but the crew was still at their stations. Commander, our FTL drive took damage in the ram. We need 3 hours to repair it. You don't have 3 hours. The Kreth will be on you in 20 minutes. I know. Webb's face was calm, accepting. Get your ships to safety, Commander. We'll buy you time. Captain, that's suicide. Probably. But if we run and leave this position undefended, the Kreth will push through to the colony worlds behind us. Millions of civilians. We can hold them here at least for a while. Ramirez stepped into view behind Webb. Captain has initiated Protocol Thermopylae, Commander. It's a human military doctrine. Last stand defense. We hold this position no matter what. Vaxil felt something strange in his chest. Respect. This primitive species, with their crude ships and simple weapons, was willing to die to protect people they had never met, people from species that had dismissed them as inferior. How long can you hold? Vaxil asked. As long as we have ammunition and someone to shoot at, Webb replied. We'll broadcast our tactical data on all frequencies. Use what we learn about the Kreth. Make our stand worth something. On the observer station, Kria was already calculating. The human ship will be destroyed in approximately 17 minutes after the Kreth arrive, she announced. They have insufficient firepower to hold against those numbers. An operator turned to her. Should we continue observing? Kria's crystalline structure pulsed with a color pattern that meant determination. Yes. Humanity is about to show the galaxy something important. We must record it. The Indomitable hung in space, battered and broken, but still broadcasting its defiance. Its remaining guns tracked outward, waiting for the enemy to arrive. Inside, the crew made their peace and prepared to fight. Webb opened a channel to all stations on his ship. All hands, this is the captain. You know what's coming. No one will blame you if you want to abandon ship. Escape pods are ready, but if you stay, we make them pay for every inch. We show the galaxy that humans don't run. We don't quit. We fight. Not a single crew member left their post. In the distance, the Kreth swarm approached like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. 214 ships against one damaged vessel. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. But the Indomitable's guns remained trained on the approaching enemy, ready to turn the execution into a bloodbath. The Kreth swarm filled the sensor displays like a plague of locusts. 214 bioships moving with perfect coordination, closing in on the single human vessel. Observer Station Sigma-7 recorded every moment, broadcasting the data to the Council and every military force in range. Captain Marcus Webb stood on his ruined bridge, watching the approaching wall of death. His ribs ached with every breath, but he stood straight. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. If these were their last moments, they would face them as professionals. "They're spreading out," the sensor officer reported. "Classic envelopment formation. They'll hit us from every angle at once. Time to contact." 4 minutes. Webb activated the ship-wide channel. "All guns, target selection is yours. Fire at will when they're in range. Make every shot count." He paused, then added, "It's been an honor serving with you all." Responses came back from every functional weapons station. Simple acknowledgments. No grand speeches. That wasn't the human way. On Observer Station Sigma 7, Kriya watched the tactical display with something approaching sorrow. The Vexari did not feel emotions like most species, but she understood loss. This human crew would be dead in minutes, and their sacrifice would likely be meaningless. The Kreth would overwhelm them and continue their advance. "New contacts," an operator suddenly announced. "Multiple ships emerging from FTL. It's Commander Vaxil's fleet." "They're coming back." Kriya's crystalline structure flared with surprise. The Droken ships that had retreated were returning, accelerating toward the battle zone at maximum speed. Vaxil's face appeared on the communication screen, addressing the human ship. "Captain Webb, you claimed humans don't quit. It seems Drokens have similar pride. We're coming back. Hold on." Webb's face showed genuine surprise, then a fierce grin despite the pain. "Understood, Commander. We'll save some Kreth for you." "Not just us," Vaxil added. 3 more ships appeared on sensors, then 6 more, then a dozen, ships from 4 different species, all turning back to join the fight. "You shamed us, Captain. Shamed us into remembering that courage matters more than technology." The Indomitable was no longer alone. The Kreth swarm, detecting the new arrivals, adjusted their formation. The hive mind was processing this new tactical situation. They had expected to crush a single damaged vessel. Now they faced a multi-species force with the most aggressive ship at its center. "All ships form up on the Indomitable," Vaxil ordered. "We'll use human tactics. Aggressive positioning, overlapping fire, no retreat. Show them we learned." The mixed fleet arranged itself with the battered human ship as the centerpiece. It was unprecedented. The newest, crudest vessel commanding the respect of civilizations thousands of years old. The Kreth reached weapons range and opened fire. Bioplasma bolts filled space with deadly green light. The battle began. The Indomitable fired its remaining railguns, each shot carefully aimed at critical points on Kreth vessels. Simple kinetic weapons, but devastating when properly used. Beside it, Droken ships added their plasma beams. A luminous energy being, fighting from a specialized containment ship, released focused electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Kreth coordination. The human ship took hit after hit. Its armor was already compromised, and now more sections were being torn open. But it continued firing with mechanical precision. "Portside railgun destroyed," Lieutenant Ramirez called out. "Hull breach on Deck 12, fire in Engineering Section 4. Reroute power from life support to weapons," Webb ordered. "We won't need air if we're dead." "Sir, that will kill anyone in sections without emergency oxygen. Those sections are already evacuated or breached." "To it." The lights dimmed as power flowed to the guns. The Indomitable's remaining weapons fired faster, hitting harder. A Kreth bioship latched onto a Drokan vessel, cutting limbs tearing through its hull. The Indomitable pivoted and fired its point defense lasers at point-blank range, burning through the Kreth's body until it released the Droken ship. "Target the command cluster," Webb ordered, highlighting a section of the Kreth formation on the tactical display. "Those 3 large vessels are coordinating this section of the swarm. Kill them and the others will be confused." Vaxil understood immediately. "All ships focus fire on designated targets. Simultaneous strike." The multi-species fleet concentrated their fire. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, and exotic technologies all focused on 3 Kreth command vessels. The swarm tried to adapt, moving smaller ships to shield the larger ones, but the volume of fire was too much. The first command vessel exploded. Then the second. The third tried to flee but was cut down by Droken plasma fire. Just as predicted, the surrounding Kreth ships faltered. Their movements became less coordinated, more erratic. The hive mind was struggling to compensate. "Press forward," Webb ordered. "Don't give them time to reorganize." The Indomitable accelerated into the confused Kreth formation, its remaining guns blazing. The other ships followed, attacking with renewed intensity. They were learning human tactics in real time. Aggression, calculated risks, accepting damage to inflict greater damage. But the Kreth had numbers. For every bioship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The Allied fleet was being ground down. A Vexari crystalline ship shattered under sustained fire. A Droken vessel's reactor breached, destroying it instantly. The Indomitable was at 15% combat effectiveness. Most weapons were gone. The ship was running on emergency power. Fires burned in a dozen sections. The crew was exhausted, wounded, dying. "Captain," Ramirez said quietly, "we're done. We have maybe 5 minutes of fight left." Webb looked at the tactical display. The Kreth were regrouping, forming up for a final push. Beyond them, he could see the coordinates where the colony worlds lay. Billions of innocent lives. He made his decision. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel to Allied ships," Webb ordered. "Ramirez, you're in charge of the evacuation." "Sir?" "That's an order, Lieutenant. Get our people off this ship." Ramirez understood. Her eyes widened. "Captain, no. Someone needs to make sure the reactor breach happens at the right moment. Manual control only." "I'll stay." "Sir, I can't." "You can and you will. Our crew deserves to survive even if this ship doesn't. Move, Lieutenant." "That's your final order from me?" Ramirez saluted, tears in her eyes. "It's been an honor, Captain." "The honor was mine." "Now go." The crew began evacuating to Allied ships via emergency shuttles and direct docking. Webb stayed on the bridge alone now, piloting the dying ship toward the densest part of the Kreth formation. "All ships, this is Captain Webb. Pull back to minimum safe distance. The Indomitable is going to do one last thing." "Captain, what are you planning?" Vaxel asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "Reactor overload. Manual core breach. I can get it right into the middle of their command cluster before they realize what's happening. It'll take out at least 70 ships, maybe more." There was silence on the channel. Then Vaxel spoke, his voice heavy with respect. "Your sacrifice will be remembered, Captain Marcus Webb. Just make sure the evacuation ships get clear." Webb out. The Indomitable limped forward, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. The Kreth, sensing a dying ship, moved in for the kill. They didn't realize it was a trap. Webb piloted the ship manually, nursing the last bit of power from damaged engines. His hands were steady on the controls. He thought about Earth, about the blue skies he would never see again. He thought about his crew, safe now on other ships. He had lived a good life. And if his death meant something, meant saving millions of innocent people, then it was a death worth having. The Indomitable entered the heart of the Kreth formation. 73 bioships surrounded it, moving in to tear the ship apart. Webb initiated the reactor overload sequence and disabled all safety systems. The core began to breach, energy building exponentially. "For Earth," he said quietly, "and for everyone we're protecting." The UESS Indomitable exploded in a blast of pure energy that lit up the system like a newborn star. The explosion was visible from Observer Station Sigma 7, even at their extreme distance. A sphere of pure white light expanded, consuming everything in its path. 73 Kreth bioships simply ceased to exist. The shockwave scattered another 40 vessels, their organic hulls shredded by the blast. The remaining Kreth swarm, suddenly without coordination and facing devastating losses, did something they had never done before in recorded history. They retreated. The hive mind pulled back, abandoning the Talus system and fleeing into deep space. The battle was over. Humanity had won. But the cost was visible in the debris field where the Indomitable had made its final stand. Pieces of the ship drifted in space, still glowing from the heat of the explosion. Nothing could have survived that blast. On the bridge of the War Pride, Commander Vaxil stood silent, his forearms hanging at his sides. Around him, his crew worked quietly, tending to damage and coordinating rescue operations, but their commander just stared at the view screen showing the debris field. "The human evacuation shuttles have all been recovered," his second-in-command reported. 147 crew members survived. Captain Webb was the only casualty. Vaxil felt a weight in his chest. One casualty. One death. But what a death it had been. Lieutenant Ramirez appeared on the communication screen. Her face was streaked with tears and soot, but her eyes burned with fierce pride. "Commander Vaxil, the crew of the Indomitable requests permission to formally transfer to your fleet until we can return to Earth." "Permission granted, Lieutenant. Your crew fought with honor I have rarely witnessed. They will be treated as heroes. Thank you, sir." "The captain, he saved us all." made us evacuate so he could pilot the ship manually. He knew exactly what he was doing. His sacrifice will not be forgotten. I swear this to you. On Observer Station Sigma 7, Kriya compiled her report. She had recorded every moment of the battle, from the arrival of the crude human ship to its final devastating act. The data would be studied for generations. Her preliminary analysis was already spreading through the galactic networks. Within hours, every military academy in known space would be reviewing the battle, the human tactics, the aggressive positioning, the willingness to accept damage to inflict greater damage, the concept of a last stand doctrine, and most importantly, the lesson that sometimes courage and determination mattered more than advanced technology. News of the battle reached the Galactic Council within a cycle. The chamber that had dismissed human help now fell silent as Ambassador Sarah Chen stood to address them. She did not look triumphant. She looked tired and sad. Captain Webb had been her friend. The Kreth have been driven from the Talus system, Sarah said, her voice steady despite her grief. The colony worlds are safe. 147 crew members of the UESS Indomitable survived. Captain Marcus Webb gave his life to ensure their escape and to destroy the Kreth command structure. The chamber remained silent. Species that had laughed at human offers of help now couldn't meet her eyes. Humanity did not ask for thanks, Sarah continued. We didn't help because we wanted recognition. We helped because it was the right thing to do. Because people were dying, and we could make a difference. That's what we do. That's who we are. Commander Vaxil, attending the council session via hologram, stood. The council owes humanity a debt that cannot be repaid. Captain Webb's sacrifice saved millions of lives. His tactics defeated an enemy we thought was unbeatable. I formally propose that Captain Marcus Webb be awarded the Star of Valor, the council's highest military honor. Seconded, Kriya said immediately, her crystalline voice carrying through the chamber. Thirded, a luminous delegate added. The vote was unanimous. Sarah accepted the honor on behalf of Earth and Captain Webb's family, but she knew no medal would bring Marcus back. No award would fill the hole his death left in her heart. After the ceremony, Kriya approached Sarah in a quiet corridor. Ambassador Chen, I wanted you to know that my report on the battle has been downloaded over 4 billion times across the galactic network. Every military force is studying human tactics. Captain Webb has changed warfare itself. Sarah managed a small smile. He would have been embarrassed by all the attention. Marcus was a simple man. He just wanted to do his job and protect people. That simplicity may be humanity's greatest strength, Kriya observed. You don't complicate war with politics or pride. You identify the threat and eliminate it. The galaxy needed that lesson. Over the following cycles, everything changed. Earth received formal requests from 17 different species asking to study human military doctrine. The concept of acceptable losses entered galactic strategic planning. Ship designers began incorporating redundant systems and reinforced structures, copying human engineering principles. Most significantly, the Council requested that humanity take a leading role in galactic defense. Earth began construction on 12 new battleships, with other species contributing their most advanced technologies. The ships would combine human tactical thinking with alien engineering excellence. The first of the new vessels was named UESS Indomitable II. On its hull, engraved in 50 different languages, was a simple phrase. They expected us to watch. We chose to fight. Lieutenant Ramirez, promoted to commander, was given command of the new ship. At the launch ceremony, she stood on the bridge that was so much more advanced than the original Indomitable, but felt the presence of her old captain in every decision. Captain Webb taught us that war isn't about having the best technology, she told the assembled crew. It's about having the best heart. The willingness to stand when others run, to fight when victory seems impossible, to sacrifice yourself so others can live. That's the human way. That's what this ship represents. The Indomitable II launched with a fleet of 20 ships from 8 different species. The first Terran-led coalition fleet. They jumped to warp, heading to the border regions where Kreth activity had been detected. At the site where the original Indomitable was destroyed, the Council erected a memorial, a simple monument made of earth granite and fragments recovered from the ship's wreckage. It floated in space, maintained by automated systems marking the spot where one human had changed the fate of billions. The inscription was brief: Captain Marcus Webb, UESS Indomitable. He stood when others fell. He fought when others fled. He died so others could live. The galaxy will remember, and they did. In military academies across 1,000 worlds, cadets studied the Battle of Talos system. They learned about aggressive tactics and acceptable risk. They learned about the importance of morale and determination. They learned about sacrifice, but most importantly, they learned that sometimes the newest and crudest warrior can teach the oldest and wisest new ways to fight. Earth became a respected military power not because they had the best weapons or the fastest ships. They earned respect because they had something no amount of technology could replace: the stubborn human refusal to quit, even when quitting made sense. Commander Vaxil visited Earth a cycle after the battle. He stood at a memorial garden in Geneva, where Captain Webb's empty coffin was buried. Human tradition, Sarah had explained, honoring those whose bodies could not be recovered. "I dismissed your species as primitive," Vaxil told Sarah as they stood in the garden. "I thought technology was everything. Your Captain Webb taught me that the warrior's spirit matters more than the warrior's tools." Sarah placed a hand on the memorial stone, feeling the warmth of Earth's sun on the granite. Marcus would have liked knowing he made a difference. That's all he ever wanted, to matter, to help. He mattered more than he could have imagined. The entire galaxy is different because one human refused to follow sensible orders. Sarah laughed, a sound mixed with tears and pride. That sounds like Marcus. He was never very good at being sensible. They stood in silence for a moment, honoring a man who had changed everything by simply doing what he thought was right. Far above, in orbit, the Indomitable II prepared for its next mission. On the bridge, Commander Ramirez looked at a small photo she kept at her station. Captain Webb smiling on the day the original Indomitable had launched. He looked so proud of his ugly, crude patchwork ship. "We'll make you proud, Captain," she whispered. "We'll show the galaxy what humans can do." The ship jumped to warp, carrying humanity's determination into the stars. The age of human warfare had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived not with the best technology or the most powerful weapons. They had arrived with something far more dangerous: the absolute refusal to surrender, the willingness to sacrifice everything for what they believed was right, and the stubborn conviction that courage could overcome any odds. The galaxy had learned to respect that, and to fear it just a little bit, because if humans could do the impossible once, they could do it again, and that thought both thrilled and terrified every species in known space.